Hello there, this is Sheldon again. Welcome back to iOS tutorials. So today we'll keep working on our existing project, which is related to the downloading, storing, and also reading the PDF files within our local systems. I mean, downloading, of course, is from the internet. So in this case, we're going to cover the usage of Alamofire for downloading, NSFilemanager for reading the files, as well as WK Web View to finally show our PDF files. Okay, so enough talking, let's start coding. So here is a completed project that you will have at the end of the tutorial. So when we hit download for the first file, it will show a downloading indicator, and after that the view button is activated. And also for the second, it's same. And especially for the third one, I'm downloading a much bigger file, probably like 100 MB. So this time, this downloading indicator is running much slower. But one thing that you may notice that when the moment I hit the download button, this view button is activated. This is like you can optimize by yourself after you make sure everything is downloaded. So let's get into our code. So here we are as code. I mean, the first thing I'm going to tell you is that if you don't follow the first part, don't panic. I will quickly go through what we have done for the first part of this video, that we have configured the Alamofire SDK as well as the MBProgressHUD SDK using Cocoapods. So that's basically what we have done for the first part of the video, and we didn't implement a single function from these two frameworks because we're going to use Alamofire to download and use MBProgressHUD to show the download indicator. So if you watch the simulator now, basically we implemented 3 cells because I hard-code a PDF array with 3 PDF URL with their strings. So in that case, if I'm returning the number of rows using that array.count, it will definitely show us 3 rows. So in each cell, I have one label that indicates the name of the file, which is I use slash here to split the whole string, and then I use the last part, and then we can get the file name and into here. So if you check, the first file name will be Apple_developer whatever, and the second one will be iTunes Connect _developer something, and then the final one will be annual report something. Because I made some difference for the final one, as you may notice, the first 2 URLs I'm getting from HTTPS, and third one I'm getting from HTTP. I mean, I'm doing this on purpose, and I will show you the difference to handle these 2 scenarios. Okay, so also in the first part of the video, I have implemented some logic to make sure when you hit download, it will print download tabbed, and it will return us which row we are typing. Actually, this is very important, that to find which row we are typing, because in this case we can depending on the index here, we can select which URL we're gonna hit. We're gonna use it to download. So to implement that, we have implemented the delegation. So we create a protocol and create 2 methods. One is called date-click download button, and we are parsing the cell there to our class. I mean, to our table view class. In that case, we can get the index path using the cell that we parse from here. Same for the date-click view button. In this case, we're gonna, after we click view, we're gonna send the URL there to the UI table view controller, so that we will view exact the file with correct index. So as you may see, the result from the last part is just like we show the table view with 3 rows, and when you tap each row, it will show the corresponding index and as well as view. So when we tap download, it will show download tab. When we tap view, it will show view tabbed. Okay, so if you have any question regarding this, you can ask me as well. Okay, so let's work on for our today's mission. Okay, so if we come to this home table view controller that I have created last time, you will see this new function that I have created. So I will recreate this function to show you guys how do we download files using Alamofire. Okay, so again, if you don't need to worry about the code. I will upload the whole project in a GitHub repository that I will post the link in the video description down there. So finally, you can download the whole project, and there's no worry on that. Okay, so we're gonna create one function called download file with index, because as I said, when we download our file, we're gonna use the corresponding URL, which is simply getting selected from this PDF array. And as you may remember that when we tap download, it will give us an index, and the way to get the index is just use index path is equal to self.tableview.index path for cell. Okay, in this case, we will be able to get the index path.row. So for example, what we're gonna do in the did click download button, we're gonna do if let index path.row. We can define index is equal to if let index equal to index path.row. We're gonna invoke download file with index, which will be index here. So only if this index is existing, we're gonna invoke our function. In this case, we're gonna invoke this function. So let's go through this function. There's two parts of this function, and the first part is from here to here. Why would I say this is the first part? Okay, so this part we have the logic to download our files. Okay, I mean I shouldn't separate these two parts. So this will be the first part. In the first part, we have defined the URL string. Okay, so the URL string will be simply this PDF array with index of IND, which will the input index parameter that we sent from this function. Okay, when we invoke this function, we're giving the index as the input parameter. Okay, so once we get this index, we can find the corresponding URL that we're going to download. So this whole download process is just simply use the function from Alamofire. So if you can Google Alamofire and Swift, you're gonna find their homepage, and in this homepage you just search download and probably download the request. Okay, so you will easily find this method. That is, you first need to define this destination. This destination will be a special type of parameter that's not a simply actually it's not a simply URL or a file URL. It has some configuration as well. So in this case, this destination will be something like a tuple. That first part will be the file URL, and then the second part will be the configuration enumerations. So first, for the way that I think there is some minor issue for this framework. If you create your file URL only by this, the compiler will give you some error. So I don't know what's the reason, but it seems some internal issue from the framework. So the way to solve it is you need to typecast this document URL into NS URL instead of URL. when we define the destination, I have added 2 lines. So we will print out this document URL as well as the file URL. And finally, we will return this tuple to this destination with file URL colon, and we will have these configurations. So, I mean, you can go through the files or instructions of this Alamofire framework that what will these 2 things do. But the first one, it means if you have an existing file there for the same file URL, it will simply delete the old one and it will use the current new file to override the old existing file. It will be easy for you to operate this option. You want to remove the old previous file, or you want to add a new file like number 2. I mean the same file name and appending number 2 after that. So the way that you create the file URL is just use the document URL and appending path component. Okay, so if you read the line number 89, this line is actually the local API that creates the file. Okay, as you can see, it uses the file NSFilemanager.defaultManager.urls. So if you hold command and left click the URL, this function, you will be able to find that, oh, this is a native function given by Apple that will return an array of the URLs. And what we have done is to just get the first element of that URL array and typecast it into NSURL. So in this case, we're going to return an NSURL for the file URL. After that, what we will do is just simply use this download method. So again, I did some modification. As you may notice, the original function is simply Alamofire download with this URL string to destination and dot response. But what I have done is add one thing in between these 2 things. Okay, so this is the original line that you can have response and then you can do whatever you want. But what I have done is to add download progress with closure, and after that we still invoke the response. And then because we have this progress, we can use it. But for now, let's leave it empty. I mean, let's run our project for now to see what's going to happen. And if we compile and run our project, it will show, yes, I have some logic using the MBProgressHUD, so I will delete it. After we run our project and click download, this function got invoked, download file with index, because we have this line here. And if we check our terminal, we're gonna see the whole response is printed, and because we have this star 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 here, maybe we can search star star star. It will show we have document URL as this, and we have file URL as this. So this will be the file URL that we're gonna save our file there. And after that, we will hit the download. And after it downloaded, we will have this response ready. So in this case, we are printing out the file path, which will be like this, because we have MMM there. If we search MMM, it will find the file path. So what will it be look like in our local system? You can, so first click anywhere else outside the Xcode and it will switch to Finder, and then you hold Shift command and hit G, and you will have this go to folder, and you paste the link from here to here and click go. It will show the file. Okay, I mean, it shows that our files are successfully downloaded. I mean, you can temporarily delete all these files. So let's comment out the printing of the response and get back to our MBProgressHUD. So the second part of our downloading process is simply implement the logic for MBProgressHUD. So you can also find some instruction of the SDK in their official GitHub page. You just search MBProgressHUD and GitHub, you will find this page easily. And if you search progress, actually you will find this line. This is how you create your progress. But I mean, the instruction is written in Objective-C, and we have to do a little bit work to transfer it to Swift. I mean, it's fairly easy. Just define your HUD using MBProgressHUD.show add to self.view and animate it. And also, the key part is you have to set the mode into the annular determinate. I mean, it will not show the spinning indicator. Actually, it will show a whole circle that has a progress. And next, you can optimize your text label by loading. And after that, it's the key part that, remember, we add this download progress here. So in this case, we're gonna use HUD dot progress is equal to prog, which will be the parameter we define in the closure, and fraction completed. So in this case, let me put some comment here. This is the second part you're gonna implement. In this case, we are showing the download indicator that has a progress to show the download process. Okay, so again, I'm getting our file, defining our file name using this index. Don't forget that. Let's quickly run our project for the second time. So let's hit download now, and it will show a loading indicator, and for the second file it is as well. But for the third file, there will be some issue. It will say app transport security has blocked the clear text from HTTP, because after iOS 8, Xcode 7, it is having some configuration that you should only download something from HTTPS instead of HTTP. So we have to do some customized configuration for the ATP, which is App Transport Security. So if you come to the info plist for your project, this info plist has to be for your project only. Okay, so if you hit plus, and let's try to find application transport security settings, okay, and expand your dictionary and add allow attribute loads, and you can select yes. In this case, it will allow you to download stuff from HTTP link as well. And now if we run our project, we can see the result. Let's get back to our view controller and see download the third one. Okay, it is downloading. And it is worth noting that I'm making this file very large. This file is like 100 MB, so this downloading is very slow. In this case, we can clearly show the downloading process that is really related to the content that we are downloading. So after it downloaded, this indicator will disappear. So everything works fine now, and if you are still worrying about the file, we can come to this folder again, and as you can see, we are now having 3 files: 0.pdf, 1.pdf, and 2.pdf. Okay. So what we're going to do next is simply implement the function for view file in here, did click view button. Okay, so we're gonna push to a new view controller that has a web view there to show our file. Oh, We can do something actually. If we come to the cell file, where's the simulator? Yes. So initially, let's simply disable all these view files. Okay. So in that case, we just launch the app. The view button will be disabled. After we download, we can simply enable it. Okay. So if we come to our view controller, so here in the did click download button, if this thing is existing, we just simply add a line that view cell.view button, because we need to typecast it into table view cell. In that case, we can only access our property view button. Okay, I mean this the position to put this line may be wrong, that we have to make sure our content is absolutely downloaded somewhere here. But for now, let's just simply put it here. Once you click the button of downloading, the view button will be get enabled. So let's run our project for I believe the third time. As you can see, the view button initially is simply enabled. So when you try to tap here, actually it's like the tapping the selecting the row. So we can also make the selection style to be none. In this case, we will not select our cell from the table. So after we disable the selection of the cell, we will not select our cell for sure, and when we click view, nothing will happen, because only after we download it will got enabled. And when we hit, now we are able to hit the view button. Okay, so let's implement the function for the view button. What we're going to do is simply add a new view controller that contains a web view. Let's drag view controller here, and let's drag a web view. Okay, and we can quickly configure it using auto layout with 0, 0, 0, 0 on every edge. Okay, but what we're gonna need is also creating a new file that is called UI view controller. Let's say called reader view controller. And we will connect the new controller with the class of reader view controller. Okay, so we're gonna put the same storyboard identifier for it as well. And reader view controller, let's use our web view. Actually, we can simply drag it here. Web view. We have defined a property. So let's come back to our main home table view controller. Okay, so now let's define our view controller, that is self.storyboard.instantiate view controller with identifier, which is reader view controller, and we need a little bit typecast. Okay, so after we get this, we need to pass the exact URL that we will use there. So let's say for the index 0, we're going to pass the first one. The good thing is we already have this index available because we have this thing. And let's follow the same pattern, that we need to check if the index is existing or not. which will be true all the time. And only is existing, we're gonna push to the new view controller here. So we will get the URL string is equal to PDF array of index, and we will need to create a property for this view controller. So let's create a property called var URL string. Will be a string, of course. Let's make it exclamation mark there. But we can give a simple value, initial value. So if we come back, we will be able to access this property of the VC. So we're gonna type URL string, and we're gonna update URL string with this value. Okay, so no problem. After we pass the information from here to there, in this reader view controller, we're gonna show, have the information that is needed. And next, we're gonna use self.navigation controller.push view controller VC and animate it. So in this case, we're gonna push to the new view controller. And if we come to the reader view controller, we will have this URL string ready. So let's implement a function that view did appear. In this case, we're gonna load our file only after everything, only after view is loaded instead of view did load. It's like this one always happens later than view did load. Okay, so we need to put super view did appear to avoid memory leak, and after that we will use our web view to load our file. So to load our file, we need to create a request. Let request is equal to URL request with URL. Okay, so one thing that you need to be very careful that when we have to create the URL, file URL for sure, and we have the string ready, right? But you should not simply create your URL using this way. So this way, it will only have the URL from here to here. So it will not have the scheme of the file. And the correct way is to use file URL with string. In this case, we're gonna create a file URL with the file scheme. So we will use self.url string, of course, and to create our file URL. So because this self.url is exclamation mark assured, so this file URL will be not nil forever. So in that case, you don't need to type file URL exclamation mark here. You don't have to do that. And now the request is ready. So what we have to do is just to self.webview.load request with URL request, which will be a property that is done here. And let's simply run our project. It takes longer this time because we have been adding new UI storyboard there. So again, we have to type download before we are able to hit view button. Okay, same for the second one. And let's leave the third one for now. And we hit view, we're gonna push to the new view controller but there's some issue. As you can see, the file is loaded, but there's some problem. Let's try the second one. Okay, so there's some issue that we have to deal with. Okay, so let's first try to let's try to first print out our URL string to see if it successfully passed. Yes, it will hit view did load, and we can print self dot. Okay, actually this value is optional, and if we po print our self.url string, we're gonna see the whole line, which is fine. Oh, one thing, yeah, so we shouldn't be giving the download URL because the file is not downloaded yet. In this case, we'll try to re-download the file, which is wrong. Actually, we're gonna read the local file. So why would we want to send the raw URL link from the internet? Yes, so we have to do something here. So after we successfully download our file, we have to store the local file path into some local storage, probably in the RAM only, and let's do it now. So we will create a dictionary in this case. Let's define it as var file URL local URL dict, and it will be a dictionary that key is integer and the value is string. So it is gonna be changed, so we create by a var. Okay, so we will use the index to form our dictionary. Local file, what was the name? File local dictionary with IND will be the file path, which will be a string, because the path that is returning from the response will be a string type. So we're gonna get it. Yes, this will be enough. So we're gonna use the file, IND as the key, and the file path as a value. So in this case, after everything is parsed, after the file is downloaded, we will store the file with into this file dictionary. Okay, it's better to print out this file URL before we push to the next view controller. So if we come to the click view button, let's print. We have to have the correct index, which will be the indexing function. After run our project, we're gonna hit download again, and then view, and it will come to this line, and if we hit next line, it will give out the value here. Okay, so we are successfully get the value, the whole URL string in our local system. Let's pass this message only to the next view controller. So we simply define the string again, and give the value as from the dictionary, and we give the value of URL string into the vc.url string. Download and view, and after view did appear, and our file reader is reading the files successfully into a web view. And because this is web view, you can simply, it seems you cannot zoom in, but if it's a web view, you should be able to zoom in for the PDF files. We can try the second file as well. Again, we cannot zoom in. Yes, after we rotate the screen, at least it's bigger. Okay, so I think this is pretty much about it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Although the second tutorial is a bit longer than I expected to finish, but in this case, I think I made this process very clearly, that I have explained all the process of downloading and how we use the web view to read our file from the local system. So this line FileManager.default.url, you have to be very familiar with this line. This is the one that we used so often to visit the local file system in our iOS app using NSFilemanager. So if you go to the if you go to the file manager, the local folder of application, because we're running our application in our simulators, so you can see this kind of messed up, but it has this local folder prepared for you, especially for this document library or temp. And what we have done is to use this user domain mask.first, which will be the document directory, because we are using this .document directory as the type. And also in this case, we have shown how to use the Alamofire to download with this progress ready to be used by this MBProgressHUD. So in that case, you can show user more clearly the process of downloading to let the user know what's going on in the background. Okay, so the whole project will be available in GitHub, and I will post the link down in the description. And please leave a like. Also, if you have any question, please leave a comment as well. The most important thing, and don't forget, the most important thing is just subscribe. So I will be posting interesting and useful iOS topics into the channel so that we can together be better and better. Okay, so I will see you in next tutorial. Bye.